Welcome, ladies, to the Successful Women in Love interview series, How to Have the Cake and Eat It Too. My name is Camille. I help driven, passionate women in how to have a committed and romantic relationship so they can really have that passionate, loving and committed relationship they truly deserve. So I'm over the moon to have a really, really special guest today. Her name is Pip McKai. She is, I would say, probably one of the most passionate women I know, one of the most vibrant, creative, passionate women I know, definitely a role model for having the cake and eating it too, because she's also in a beautiful, loving and committed relationship. So Pip, I'd love you to, and first of all, welcome on this interview. Welcome.
Oh, I'm so excited to be here.
Brilliant. And I'd love you to just tell the listeners, maybe some of the women who are listening and watching this haven't met you yet. Many would have, but the ones who haven't, can you just let them know a little bit about you and what you do and why you're so passionate about what you do?
Well, what I do is I assist people to find their passion and purpose and to clear away the blocks to their success. And, those might be emotional blocks or the influences of things in the past, like, mum and dad and their relationship, or maybe ex-partners, that sort of thing. So basically, I'm a life coach, and I also help other people to become life coaches as well, and also run personal development seminars. So, that's kind of in a nutshell what I do.
Perfect, and of course we'll go much more into that by by having our conversation today. So my first question to you is: was finding an amazing quality life partner, was it a piece of cake for you? Was it really, really easy for you?
Short answer, no. And it was really interesting because I kind of felt like I help other people do this, and yet I couldn't do it for myself. And I kind of felt like, I'm successful in my career. I'm successful in my life. I love my life. I'm a passionate person. I'm a good person. And it was just like, why can't I find the relationship that's right for me? And when you have those questions, there's lots of sort of answers that society might have, such as, if you're a successful woman, men are threatened by you, blah, blah, blah. There's all these sort of things out in the world, these sort of truisms about why you can't do that. And in actual fact, none of them are true, because you don't need to find the majority of men. You just need to find one.
Absolutely.
And out of the millions of men that are out there, you can find one to suit yourself. Yeah.
So when you were on that journey, and you would have had moments where you maybe were a bit frustrated, did you have times when you did sort of buy into that belief, maybe I'm just meant to have this amazing thriving business, maybe I can't have both? Did you have moments of that?
Oh, absolutely. Like, I had years of it. There were times when I would sort of like go, I'd feel lonely, and I would go, okay, well, it's just not enough for me just to have a successful career. And sometimes I would throw myself into work and just be a total workaholic to try and avoid the feelings that I had, because nowhere else in my life did I feel like a failure, but in this area of relationships. And then I would go on this, I'd be like, okay, now is the time. This is my New Year's resolution. And then I would sort of go out and I would do dating. I just did every single form of it that I could find. And then I might find someone and I'd be like, yay, made it. And then they just wouldn't be the right person for me, or I think they were and they didn't want to stay with me. There was all sorts of stuff that happened over a really long period of time. And then it was just like, okay, I'll just give up on this. My mum is, my dad died when I was 9, and my mum was single from that time on. And, she's still a single woman. And I was just like, well, maybe I'll just be like my mum and, and I'll be happy as a single woman. Why does society say as women we have to be with a partner? Like all of that.
Totally.
And in the end, there just came a point where I realised that all of that was just me attempting to protect myself from feeling like I just couldn't find the love that I was looking for. And there came a point where I just had to become vulnerable enough and let my pride go to one side. And I think pride is a good thing, because pride helps you not just be with anybody, so there's a place for pride, but there's also a place where pride is just a protective mechanism to stop the feelings of inadequacy or whatever. And there just came a moment where it was just like, do you know what? I really want love in my life. And all of the excuses and all of the beliefs and all of that is just me protecting myself from feeling vulnerable. And I need to feel vulnerable in order to open myself up to healing whatever I need to heal, to get rid of whatever beliefs I need to get rid of, or emotions. And I need to find this place of vulnerability inside where I could just go out into the world and say, I want love.
Beautiful.
And I deserve it. And that's what I want in my life.
So you were really committed to that. You were really like, okay, I'm not settling. I really deserve this. I really want this.
Yes.
And was there a turning point? I remember when we chatted before, you mentioned that you had a bit of a moment where you did sort of also, I think it was something like asking for help or something along those lines. Was there a bit of a moment which goes, it's very much hand in hand with the vulnerability and the trust and surrender?
Yeah, absolutely. What happened was I decided again, because I'd sort of given up on it for a while, and I decided again that this was going to be my year. And I went and did some coaching, my own coaching, where I went to a coach. And I just decided that I was going to commit to just going through that process with a coach. Other times when I'd gone to a coach, I might have done 1 or 2 sessions on it and then gone back to, maybe career or maybe my health or whatever.
Yeah.
And I just decided that I was going to, in the coaching process, commit to that and just do whatever it took to clear whatever I needed to clear in order to find a relationship. And there came a point during that coaching process where I really felt like I had a deep breakthrough. And I'd had years of doing bits and pieces of coaching on it.
Absolutely. You've done personal development for 15, 20 years, haven't you?
Absolutely. And, my initial journey into personal development was because I wanted to find a partner. So, this was not a new thing, and that's probably why it's quite frustrating for me. But there was just this moment where there was this very deep thing. I'd looked at it before, but I hadn't looked at it in this particular way. So I think sometimes in coaching there's this place where we've got to look at what has happened to us and clear that. But also sometimes we can feel guilty about what we might have done to somebody else.
Absolutely.
And that was something that I knew about. I'd done some clearing on it, but I hadn't really done this deep clearing and forgiven myself for times when maybe I wasn't the nicest person. And I didn't even want to admit that. So I had to kind of clear that. And when I cleared that, I really felt this big shift inside. And I remember I talked to this woman who come to look after my house. And she was a big, beautiful Lebanese woman. And, in Lebanese culture, people tend to get married young. And she had been in her 30s and she had found this life partner and she's married. And I said to her, how did you do that? She's a Catholic woman. I'm not Catholic. And she said, well, I got down on my hands and knees and I prayed. And I was like, okay. And I wasn't quite ready to do that.
Wasn't quite your style.
No, I was ready to say to her, well, I am looking for someone. And that was something I hadn't even admitted to my friends I was looking. I was kind of always, oh no, I'm happy being single. And I said to her, I am looking for someone. She goes, I think I've got the perfect person for you. But she said to me, do you like Irish men? And I was like, who doesn't? And then, but then he was with someone, so she didn't take that any further. And then there was this really interesting moment where I just decided I had to surrender. And I thought, I've got to remember my friend Lucy. And I literally got down on my hands and knees and I prayed. And I prayed the first day and I was just like, I didn't even write a list or anything. I just totally surrendered. I went, okay, whatever one believes in, God, the universe, whatever. I was just like, I want you. You know who I am. Send me the right person for me. I've got it so wrong for so many years. Just send me the right person for me. And I did that 3 days in a row. And on the 4th day, that same woman, I hadn't spoken to her in 6 months, she rang me. And I was like, oh, wow, talk about prayers.
Wow.
And she rang me and she said, Pip, you know how I talked to you about that Irish man? Well, he was doing some dating and he was with someone, but, he's broken up with that person. And, would you be interested in meeting him? And at first I had that initial fear and I was just like, oh, I don't know. What does he look like? What does he do? Like, I don't know anything about him.
I'm not sure if I'm ready for this now. Yeah.
Send me a picture. Like, it was just like all my prayers were answered. And then I was afraid. But then I thought, do you know what? You got down on your hands and knees and you prayed and your prayer was answered. You better at least go on the date.
Why not? Yes.
And so she sent me a picture and I was kind of, I don't know, because Will, my partner, the way he takes photos is like this.
Bit uptight,
and
yeah.
it was just like, oh, you've got to go at least on a date. So then on the 5th day, he rang me. It's like God creating the earth. But on the 5th day, he rang me. And, and I went on a date with him. And I remember walking into this chocolate shop where we were having our date. And I just saw him. And I just had this overwhelming feeling of, I think I can do this. Not, oh my God, I'm madly in love at first sight, but just, I think I can do this. And so we had a date and it lasted 5 hours and it was so wonderful because everything that I never liked in dating, like never knowing at the end of the date whether the person wants to call you or not, waiting on the end of the phone none of that ever with this man. At the end of the date, he said, I have really loved spending time with you. When can I see you again? And I was like, hallelujah.
Oh, incredible.
Yeah. And then he would text me, every day, every night. I never had any of that sense of masculine chasing. It was all about being in my feminine and him being the man, him chasing me, him making me feel secure and beautiful and adored and cherished all the way through. Yeah, and so now we're engaged. We've got engaged in Dublin.
Gorgeous ring.
And it's a Claddagh ring, so it's a traditional Irish ring.
Beautiful.
And so he asked me to marry him when we were in Dublin. So that's my story.
Amazing story. Do you feel you would have been able to do it without a coach?
Oh, absolutely not. No way. Because I had attempted to. I had attempted to do that without coaching. There's no way because, my background's, got those complications. I had abuse as a child. My father died when I was 9. He wasn't the person who abused me. I had a court case. There was a lot of stuff there that I had to work through. And then I'd had some, not good relationships. And, and I was, because my thing is to care for other people, so I had problems with boundaries. I always saw people's potential, not what was in front of me. I always made excuses for people's behaviour. I always thought, oh, well, they will change and, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And so there was things that were about my background, and my mum being single, after my father died from 9 years old, I didn't have a model of a good relationship. I'd had a model of no relationship. And then there was also my personality of always seeing the good in people. When I was a child, I was the one that picked up, the broken winged.
Yeah, absolutely. You're such a nurturer.
Yeah, that's right. So I was kind of like looking for people where I would be doing that, and then I kind of had a sense that if I did that for them, they wouldn't leave me and they would then cherish me back, and those type of men don't. So
no, absolutely.
The moment you're healed, they don't want you anymore. They don't want a mother.
No.
They want a goddess.
They want a goddess.
Someone that they can, follow and adore and love. Yeah.
So with your beautiful fiance, your committed fiance, do you feel like he's in any way, threatened when you're, with your power and independence?
Absolutely. Absolutely not. He adores that in me. And it's such a relief because, me as my private person, I'm quite introverted. I like to be childlike and playful. But me as the presenter is very different. Me as the presenter is the person in control and in charge and, inspiring, motivating, all of that sort of stuff. So I'm really almost like two different people. And the men that I'd met before, they either saw me as the presenter and wanted that woman. And then when I was at home, in my daggy clothes, just being myself, they were like, who's this? No, I want that, that woman up on stage. Or they'd met me as my childlike, fun, kind of laughing self, and then they'd see me on stage and they'd be threatened. But Will, he loves both of those sides of me. So he sees me present. He comes to all of my trainings. He wants to be present at every training. We get him to do the music. He's the one who, makes sure everything's happening behind the scenes. He loves to be in that supportive place. He just admires me. He loves who I am up there. And then he says, when we get home, he's like, and now I've got you to myself.
Love it.
So he loves the fact that I don't want to have a big social life and, that I want to just, cuddle up and just be him and I and just go on holiday and escape from the world.
Oh, it's beautiful.
He's like, now I've got you back to myself and now I'm sharing you with the world and now I've got you back to myself.
Now you're back to...
He just loves that. It's one of the things that he just loves about me. So he has no threat about that. And what's beautiful about Will is that he's very quietly spoken and he's quite introverted, but at the deepest core of him, he is really a man. And so he's not threatened in any way, shape or form by the powerful queen that is what the world sees when I'm presenting. He's not threatened by that because he's a king inside of himself. But when people meet him, they don't think of him like that. They think of him as quietly spoken, very supportive. But, underneath that,
there's a really strong masculine man.
Yeah. Anyone say anything, or threaten me in any way, shape or form, and whoa.
Yeah.
You see that king come out. Yeah, it's really
happy to see you in this space, and you so deserve it. And it's beautiful to just see you, shine even more. So I'd love to talk also a little bit about, because it's such a big topic and something you do, about passion and purpose and why that's so important for all of us. And how it ties into, like, I'd love to hear your definition of success. One of my definitions is very much about being on purpose, doing something you're passionate about, and also creating prosperity and abundance from it. So I'd love to hear your definition of success. What does it mean to you?
Yes, I agree with you, Camille, absolutely. Like, I think, in the 1980s, success was about making money at all costs. And people sacrificed their relationships, their health, their well-being, their happiness to do that. And it was like, if I do that, then I can have these other things. And then they destroyed their life in the meantime, whether they were successful or not. And then I think there was a bit of a backlash against that, and it became about, I'm just going to do my passion. Doesn't make if I make any money from it. I'm just going to do that. But people soon found that when they couldn't make money from what they loved, there came a point where they had to give that up and go back to their own work.
Not sustainable. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So I really believe that passion and purpose is kind of a marriage of those two things. So, you have your lifestyle, you have your love partner, you have, all of those things, your holidays or whatever lights you up in that way. And you also have, what you contribute, what you make money from, and that your passion and those two things need to go hand in hand in order for you to really have success. And I think this is a real new paradigm in success, that we want to make money from what we love, and even when we make money from what we love, we still need to also have lifestyle and time out and love and all of those things as well. So yeah, I really do think that's what success is, and I think it's what people yearn for now in our new era.
So I guess that part of your life, would you say it came quite easy to you?
Yes, look, I think I was very driven. So I put everything into that. And once I found vehicles, so my initial passion was acting. So I pursued that. But what I found was I didn't like people telling me what to do in acting. You've got a director telling you what to do, how to say stuff, and that didn't really suit me. But I loved that artistic expression and that creativity. So what I did was, when I sort of found NLP, which was neuro-linguistic programming, that was the initial personal development program that I did and I taught. And I felt like, oh my gosh, this is it. And I could tell stories and I could present and kind of do acting, but under my own terms. And then after that, I started to create my own techniques, because I could see holes in things. I could see, the big thing I saw, that there wasn't anything in coaching that dealt with mum and dad, programming from mum and dad. And I saw that as a big issue for a lot of people, repeating relationship patterns of their parents. Oh, the number of people I see who kind of like marry their mum or marry their dad, whether they're male or female. Yeah. And repeat patterns. It's just extraordinary. So that's when I created matrix therapies to do that. And I was really driven by that. I saw problems for people. I wanted to help them solve those problems. And I felt very passionate about it. But that passion was so strong that I burnt myself out in terms of my health. And I didn't have time to kind of look at other areas of my life, like my love life. So, and then what I found was I was getting older. I didn't have children. I had to, suddenly I was like, oh my God, I'm going to miss out on having children. I did IVF. The IVF didn't work for me. I went into immediate menopause. My health, I had problems. I put on 23 kilos. And then with all my insecurities about relationship, I was like, oh, no one would love me if I was this weight. Yeah. So it was just so full on. It was interesting one time when I was with Will, and I'd lost the weight when I met Will. And I had this kind of insecurity at the back of my mind where I was kind of like, oh, maybe if he'd met me with the weight on, he wouldn't have liked me. And I had it in the back of my mind. And I said to him, oh, would you have been attracted to me if I was 23 kilos bigger than I am now? And he said to me, well, you're not, so it's not an issue. And I took that, with all my beliefs still there, I had to go away and do some coaching on this.
Coaching on that.
I was like, oh my God, that proves he wouldn't. And it just went on and on. And then I thought, oh God, you better speak to him about this. And I said to him, when I said that and you said this, did that mean that you wouldn't have? I've been thinking about that so much. And he goes, darling, my first wife, she was diabetic. She was bigger than you will ever be. And much bigger than you would have been with even 23 kilos on. And I adored her and I wanted to be with her. I just don't see that. So with you, I would never have seen it. But in his mind, he was saying it doesn't matter, because in his mind, he was trying to communicate, your shape, size doesn't matter to me. I would find you sexy no matter what your shape. But it was amazing how that belief that I had was affecting the way I heard what he was saying to me. So I was like, okay, I'll back to my coach. Let's clear this.
Definitely. And I'm so glad you shared this story, because this is such an important point. I coach so many very attractive, very successful women, and it always still surprises me that, or it breaks my heart when they say like, oh, maybe maybe I'm not worthy, or maybe I'm not, like, there's still a self-worth thing there. And from the outside, no one would have seen that. And even you sharing that, it's sort of like, wow, I would have just seen you as this super confident woman who would expect that that a guy would love you even if you were a little bit bigger. So what is your take on that? What is that so many women still have that deep belief around, well, maybe I'm not beautiful enough, maybe even though they've got an amazing, incredible life.
Yeah, absolutely. I think in a lot of ways when we're at a loss to understand why I not got a relationship. And because of, societal emphasis on the way we look, I think in some ways our mind almost automatically goes that, oh, it must be about that.
Must be about this,
and I know that was a big thing for me, particularly coming from an acting background, because there's such a thing in acting about the way that you look. And I remember I was 16 years old and me and my friend, we looked older than we did. And we went into a pub and my friend had really big brown eyes, like really big doe eyes, like Bridget Bardot eyes. And she had high cheekbones. And I never really thought about the way I looked. And then we were there in this pub and these men were all sitting around us and they were just totally focused on her. And it was just like I was invisible. And I was at a loss because I'd never really thought about how she looked compared to how I looked.
Sure.
I'd just never done it. And then I was like, why are they paying all this attention to her and not me? And the easiest thing for me to think about was, because she's got big eyes, high cheekbones and a little nose. That was the conclusion I came to. I never actually gathered any evidence. I never asked those men why. It might have just been that she was sparkly that day or she was just telling a good story, or I don't know why, but I instantly went to that and it just stayed with me. And then I just had this thing that was it. Even though it was interesting, just recently I went to Tasmania and I caught up with an old school friend of mine. Mm-hmm. And we were sitting down, both our partners were with us, and she said, oh yeah, and all the boys used to just gravitate to you, Pip, because you were so bubbly and and you were so beautiful. And I was just like, that was not how I'd seen myself.
That was not your reality. Yeah.
No. And I was like, how could I have spent all those years with that affecting my confidence when men say over and over again that the most beautiful thing about a woman is her confidence?
Yeah.
Yet I had let that probably completely untrue belief affect me for all those years. It was incredible.
Wow.
Yeah. So, but with a coaching process, you can clear those beliefs and suddenly you see yourself completely differently and other people see you differently.
Absolutely.
And it's unbelievable. Yeah, it's like magic.
Totally. So, of course, we could talk about this for hours and hours. I'd love to spend a little bit of time talking about your upcoming one-day workshops, which is a great sort of introduction to what you do. Can you tell us a little bit about sort of what it is and who it's for as well?
Yeah, well, the one-day workshops called the 22 Principles of Success, the secrets to achieving what you want in life plus having love and happiness. So that's what Beautiful. It is. And these 22 principles are some ancient principles that I learnt when I was 19. And I do feel that I applied those 22 principles to my career, and that was how my career really blossomed and created a lot of success in my career. But when I learnt those techniques, I didn't really understand how to apply them to the other areas of my life.
Got it.
And so over these years and through my own journey, I've been able to look at how can I apply these ancient principles using modern coaching tools to allow us to have that success, love and happiness in all of the areas of our life, and how to apply that in all of those areas. So that's what I've developed. So basically I originally learnt these when I was 19, and I had a 22-year apprenticeship in this knowledge, and it was extraordinary. And then when I learnt NLP, I was like, you could just do it like this. But when I applied the NLP and I saw other people applying NLP without the principles, because I'd had those principles so long, I realized that they were missing a huge area and that they weren't getting the same results I was getting because they didn't have those principles. So those principles are everything from what is the secret to energy, what is the secret to creativity, what's the secret to organization, what's the secret to our health, what are the key things that affect our health, how can we become a person of influence. There's this big thing about the key person of influence stuff that's come out a lot. But, well over 2,500 years ago, there was already concepts of how do we influence and how do we become a person of influence.
Incredible.
So these are 22 principles of every single thing that you need in order to be successful. And what I love about it is it's the system. So you can kind of look at the first 8, which are about how do you achieve what you want. The second 7 are how do you grow and have abundance. And the final one is how do you transform and change the things that aren't working. So that's how they work.
Love that. And there's usually a gap for most, for most of us, there'll be a few sort of things that are really in place, but a few missing pieces as well.
That's exactly right. So when, one of the big things for people, especially once they've done some personal development already, is they get to a stage where they just don't know what's missing. They don't know what they don't know. And with these tools, there is nothing else. Those 22 are everything. That's it. So you can kind of look along your 8 and go, if I'm not achieving what I want, what here is missing? And when I kind of went, okay, I need to apply this to relationships, it was really easy for me to see that the thing that I was missing is the principle of receptivity, and the secret of receptivity is vulnerability.
Yes.
So I had to go, what is preventing me from being vulnerable? And it was about trust. Because of the things that happened to me in my past, I just couldn't trust. I couldn't trust my own capacity to discern and find the right person. And then the other thing that was missing for me is called the lover's archetype. And that is the ability to discern. So what makes us make good decisions in relationships and who to be with. And the secret to that is self-love. So without self-love, we don't discern. So I was able to really work. And what was great about my coach was that my coach didn't help me find those. I found them myself, but my coach could then follow that. I could say to my coach, I need to clear this now. I need to clear that now. Because not every coach can help you understand what you need to clear. But I was able to go to him and go, I need to clear this, I need to clear that. But without the principles, I wouldn't have known what I needed to clear next.
So vulnerability, receptivity was a big one for you.
That was huge. Being able to receive and move into my feminine. For me, it was about my masculine. If I chased, then I never needed to be vulnerable.
And it felt like it was you were in control.
Something. Yeah, in control, active, out there, whereas that kind of stillness and that surrender, that was very foreign to me as a concept. So, yeah, and then with those principles in my business, because I was dyslexic as a child, the principle of organisation was the principle that I didn't find easy.
No.
And so, because my dad died. So the thing about the principle of organisation is if you don't have a good father figure, a lot of people either don't have the mentoring and organisation they need, because organisation is all about the father. It's about creating boundaries, creating structures.
Structure.
Yes, exactly. So I needed to make friends with the masculine in order to be successful in my business. So in order for me to be successful in business, I need to make friends with the masculine. But in order for me to have the relationship I needed to be able to do this aspect of the feminine. And the cool thing about those principles is that there's masculine and feminine principles. And
I love that.
Not all feminine is receiving. There's also the feminine of being creative, and there's the feminine of being intuitive and having the sage, the older feminine.
Yeah.
And we need to be able to access all of them at different times. And some of them will be easy for us and some of them won't. So basically this one-day seminar introduces people to all 22 archetypes, and we go through what prevents success, love and happiness, and what allows you to gain success, love and happiness. And it's a free one-day event.
Wow.
because this is my way of really giving back and sharing this information. And then if people want to continue the journey, they can. And if they don't, they've still got the 22. So it's very exciting.
That. And it's, again, such a good point what you made about the feminine masculine, because I truly believe to have the cake and eat it too, to have love and success, we need to be able to tap into all different aspects. It's not just about being this soft feminine woman. We got to tap into our masculine. So we need to have a repertoire of all of those energies, which is not that many people actually do own all of them, do they? So there is an art to it.
Absolutely. So as much as the masculine, we call it the knight. For me, there's a chaser. And, I love to chase things, chase.
That's that's your masculine, yeah.
Yeah, for me, writing a book is like chasing, so I love chasing things, and that's an important part of me. But the part of the masculine that was missing for me was boundaries. Being able to protect myself and have those boundaries. So, it's almost like a paradox. We need to be able to create boundaries and protect ourselves, but we also need to open up and receive. But the cool thing is, if the masculine is having that insight into other people and seeing who's safe and who's not safe, who deserves to come into your realm or not, then I can do that vulnerability, because the man in me is like doing the filtering.
It's like a gatekeeper.
Yes, and then it's the gatekeeper. And then when they say it's safe, then the feminine in me can do the vulnerability, but I'm not asking the feminine in me to do the boundary creating, because she can't. That's
right. Role. It's totally different. Absolutely. The way you describe it, I just love it, because it's very much aligned with how I support my clients, and you've got a slightly different way of it describing it. Absolutely love it. Makes perfect sense. So, sorry, you go.
I think this is the thing I love about these principles, is because they're archetypal and they're ancient. When people do it intuitively as well. So when they're in flow, you as a coach, being, in flow and being a great coach and getting results with clients, you're tapping into those anyway.
Absolutely.
It's just when we find that things aren't working for us, then it's kind of like, okay, what
definitely. So what are the dates for you've got one in Melbourne and one in Sydney?
That's right. So the 28th of February, it's on a Sunday, is in Sydney. Perfect. And then the 12th of March on a Saturday in Melbourne, down at the Hub. So we've got a new venue now in Melbourne where we can do all our programs down there, and it's really central because it makes it easy for people to get there.
Perfect. And I'll be sharing the link to those events. It sounds incredible. So there's also, just quickly before we wrap up, you have just published a book as well, which is available on Amazon.
Yes. It's called The 8 Principles of Achievement, Love and Happiness. Beautiful. So they're the first 8 of the 22. And it's been really exciting because we launched it last Thursday. And by Friday night, it had become an Amazon #1 bestseller in the US, Canada, the UK and Australia. So it was very exciting.
Oh. Massive congratulations. How does it feel to have the book out? I mean, this is a big time in your life now, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. One of the things I found is that being able to sort out what was going on in the area of relationships, I mean, even though I was already successful, my success was always kind of, putting a lot of energy in. And since I've sort of worked out that area of my life of relationship, things have come into flow you're allowing things to come to you more, so it's less of a struggle. It is. Things are easier, and I think sometimes you can be chasing success in one area of your life, but in actual fact, another area of your life has to be dealt with in order for that flow to happen. And that doesn't mean I'm not still learning and growing inside the relationship. And, Will and I are, we communicate a lot. We are constantly improving our relationship and looking at how we can make it more effective, and then just enjoying it and going on holiday. So, we kind of had that balance to ensure that it's on track. So, I think it's a journey, and life's a journey, and everything in our life is a journey. What I did find was this massive blossoming and opening up that happened. That creativity that happened. It was like giving birth was easier.
Oh, amazing. Is there a wedding planned? Have you got a...
Well,
is that another story?
Haven't decided that yet. So we're just enjoying the engagement at the moment. Like, for me, a wedding is another event. So maybe we'll just elope. I'm not quite sure what we're going to do yet.
Absolutely. I can relate to that because I'm finally getting married next month, and we've been in Swansea, Tasmania, actually, and we've been engaged for about 6 years. So and now it's sort of like, woo, oh my God, I'm really making that commitment. So it must be the I know you talk about the innocent adventurer archetype, and the women who will attend your event will find out about the different archetypes, but it must be that part in me that is like, oh, okay. But I'm definitely ready. So it's probably going to be a slow journey for you as well. With that.
I think so, because I spent a lot of years on my own, and there's a lot of wonderful things about being on one's own as well. So, the adjustment of, how does relationship work with my also need to continue to have time on my own, which I still, as a personality, I didn't actually realise that I had that as a need until I had Will there. Because when you chase, you don't need to worry about having time on your own, because all you have to do is not chase and you've got time on your own.
You have it.
Yeah, so that's been a really beautiful but also interesting understanding of myself, that I also do just need that time still just by myself, as well as being with Will. So that's been an interesting journey as well, and understanding that. So I'm quite happy to have some time.
Being engaged is beautiful, and it feels committed, but there's that romantic.
Yes,
it's about romance more so than the sort of traditional. Maybe there's something about that. So
absolutely. So that's really cool too. And Will and my work means that he has a lot of machinery, and so that's stored where he lives. So, and he's got 2 grown-up children. So, and I live in Manly, and I certainly don't want to live anywhere else. So we're still sort of working out how the living arrangements would work. So I'm happy to be engaged and not live full time together, but I don't know whether marriage and not living together, I don't know, that's not quite what I think of marriage as being. So we're still working out that little journey. Yeah.
Perfect. So amazing to have this conversation with you. You've shared some amazing, pearls of wisdom. I highly recommend anyone to check out the workshop in Sydney and Melbourne. I know a lot of my followers will definitely be interested in checking that out. So thanks so much for the generous offer, and really look forward to having another interview soon.
Oh, beautiful, Camilla. It's always a pleasure. And thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to share what I love. So thanks so much.
Thank you. Talk soon.
Bye.
Bye.